Hey guys, it's Brandon Miniman from Pocketnow.com. Google recently released the Honeycomb Preview SDK, which allows us to run the emulator and actually use Honeycomb. Pocketnow doesn't cover tablets, but we do cover smartphones, of course. So we want to talk about how Honeycomb for tablets will kind of transcend into a new version of Honeycomb for smartphones, which we know is coming in 2011. There are some dramatic changes to the way that you're going to use your phone and the way that Android thinks things should be organized. And it's pretty interesting. We want to apologize for the portrait view here. I know it's kind of difficult to see, but you may have to turn your neck a little bit. Also, we should note that the performance of this emulator is horrible, but we wanted to give you the opportunity to take a look at some of our thoughts on how Honeycomb will translate into smartphones. So first, a new unlock screen, for better or for worse, so we can slide over and bring it outside of the circle, and we'll probably see this new unlock screen come to smartphones. It's nothing too dramatic, but it's pretty neat. So a lot of things to talk about here. First of all, a new home screen manager. Currently in Android for smartphones, it's a big pain in the butt having to move icons on the screen. You can only do things one at a time. If you've got a particular home screen full of icons, you got to delete one of them if you want to kind of change the order of two icons on a full home screen, you're going to have to delete one icon, move the other one, and add the other one back. It is a mess. But in Honeycomb, it's a completely different story. We're going to tap and hold on the background here, and we're going to be taken into the home screen manager. And here's what it looks like. So it kind of gives you some items and a view of your 7 home screens, or actually there's 5 in this case. So what we can do from here is click and drag various widgets or app shortcuts from the tray down here up into the home screen. So let's show you an example. I'm going to swipe to the right so I can see all of the available widgets, and this gives you a nice visual view of the widgets instead of Android smartphone where you are sort of guessing at what things look like. So we can swipe to the right, or technically swipe up if you're looking at this video while it's in landscape. Let's say we want to add the photo frame here, or the picture frame 2x2 to the center home screen. So I'm going to tap and hold on it, and what you're going to see is the home screens turn green, and we can slide up. And again, performance really is bad on the emulator, and I'm going to release, once we get a blown up view here of the home screens, I'm going to release in one of these locations. It shows you where you can put the particular widget, which is nice, and we can drop it right there, and it will apply. Now, sometimes you'll get a red border when you do something that can't be done. Kind of strange that it's doing that because we're dropping a reasonably sized widget, and we got a force close here. You're probably going to see a lot of these through the demo. So we just tried to add a widget, didn't work. Let's go to app shortcuts. Maybe we'll have better luck with that since they're a little bit lighter. So if we tap app shortcuts, we will get a list of all of the applications on your device. Of course, you can do this now in Android for smartphones, but it's not as pretty. So we're going to probably get this kind of interface coming up in Honeycomb for smartphones. Let's say we want to put the browser icon on the second home screen. Let's see if I can actually make that happen. I'm just going to drop it here on the left home screen. And it worked, and you can see a live preview of what it looks like. Tapping on any of these blue tiles, which represent your home screens, will take you to that particular home screen. We can also go over here to Wallpapers, which we can use to adjust the wallpapers. So the big story in Android for Honeycomb is there's a lot less digging through menus. You know, on your smartphone, you get a lot of use out of the menu key. You're constantly digging into menus to do certain things. In Honeycomb, it's going to be so much less of that. In fact, the menu button doesn't even exist like it does in the current version of Android for smartphones. So here's Wallpaper. We can change the wallpaper. Or I'm going to go down here to where it says More and show you those other things that you can do, such as add a bookmark or contact, an email account, a particular setting to the home screens. Okay, so let's jump into the home screens and look at what we have here. So I'm going to actually click on it. So this is the second home screen. Very simple. I've got 2 shortcuts, one for the browser, one for the camera. We'll talk about that more in a second. We can swipe to the center home screen, and we'll get a little animation. All I've got here is a Google search. So let's talk about more of the stuff you see on the screen. I should mention that there are some awesome widgets coming to Honeycomb. Right now, the built-in Android widgets you get for your smartphone are kind of boring. If you've got an HTC device, you have a lot more choices, or a Motorola device, a lot more choices. Google's going to be providing some really high-quality widgets right out of the box for Honeycomb for smartphones. So we've got these buttons along the bottom, and obviously we've got a back button here, which will take you to the previous screen. We've got a home button, and we've got this new button, which is now your application switcher. So if you're an Android on a smartphone and you want to switch between applications, you tap and hold on the home button for about 2 seconds, which is kind of annoying because there's a delay, and you get your recently used programs. So if we do that in Honeycomb for smartphones, we are going to get, hopefully, a little pop-up that shows us our most recently used apps. And it's not showing anything now. We'll come back to it. It's probably because we haven't opened any apps. Now, because these buttons take place on the bottom of the screen, Android Honeycomb smartphones will not need to have hardware buttons, paving the way for buttonless smartphones. It's going to be great. It's going to give the OEMs a lot of flexibility in how they want to design their hardware. Now, sliding down here, we've got the time, and our notification tray in Honeycomb for smartphones is going to switch to the bottom of the screen. Makes a lot of sense because to kind of move your finger to the top of the screen and slide down the notification tray like you do right now in Android, it's kind of cumbersome. Takes a lot of finger movement, but here you can just tap on a particular notification. I've actually got an email notification. Let's see how that looks. And of course, right here we get a little preview of our email notification. So really neat way that they redesigned notifications. I've got my Gmail feeding into here right now, and it's working quite well. We can tap on the clock to get a little preview of sort of what time it is. We can also see the notifications in one shot, the battery percentage, the date, the time, and our signal strength. So that's new. We can kind of click off there, and it should fade away into the background. Now, how do you get to apps? Well, now the app drawer is at the top of the screen. We're not so sure that the app drawer is going to be at the top of the screen when it comes time for Android for smartphones, because again, you're reaching all the way to the top of your screen, but maybe. Let's see how the app drawer looks on at least the tablet edition. Very simple listing of your programs. You can toggle between all programs or downloaded programs, and downloaded programs will probably be the ones that don't come stock on your device. So I'm going to go back to all. And let's dive into a few applications. I have a feeling that a lot of these are going to force close on us, but you know, let's try. We're going to go into Calculator, probably the easiest to run application here, and see how it looks, how it's been redesigned. So not only are we going to get a new home screen manager for Android for smartphones and these buttons along the bottom, but a lot of the little visual cues of Android are going to change, and you're going to see that as I continue to walk through. So here we are in the calculator. Let's dive back home. Nothing really to see there except for some really large buttons. I'm going to go back into the app tray, and let's try to get into the browser. Have a feeling the browser is going to force close because it's already done that several times. It's very likely that we're going to see an Android smartphone browser redesigned for Honeycomb. It's not going to be as dramatic as what you're about to see because smartphones have smaller screens, but it's likely that we'll see a better tabbed interface in Android Honeycomb for smartphones. We'll also see our buttons, the back and the forward, the stop button, come out of the menu button that you have to press in order to access those functions. And also over here, there will be a search button and a favorites button, kind of bringing out these functions again, making it easier and less button intensive when you're browsing. So again, here it just force closed, so it stayed open just long enough so you can get a little view of how things look. Let's jump into the clock application, and I think from there you're going to see really these new cues that Android's calling the holographic interface. A lot of sort of flat textures, blue colors. Here we have the clock. We've got the redesigned Honeycomb font there. There's not much you can do here, so I'm going to get out of here. Let's go back to the home screen and tap on the multitasking button. By now we should be able to do some things with it. Let's see. This doesn't always function, but there we go. This is what multitasking looks like in Android, and this is probably going to come through in the Honeycomb smartphones that are going to come out. So one click tap of a button here that is always on the screen will allow you to dive into the recently used applications, much more efficient than what we get right now in Android on smartphones, which is that annoying tap and hold of the home button. Okay, so let's dive into settings. And a lot of these applications here, like email and settings, have a split pane view. We're probably not going to see the split pane view in Android Honeycomb for smartphones because it doesn't really make sense. You're dealing with a smaller screen. But here you can get a sense for some of these new visual cues I was talking about. So we've got sort of blue highlighting here. That's new. If we go to some of these options, you'll see the checkboxes are redesigned. The backgrounds are redesigned. The font seems to be different. And we're going to see all of this come through on the smartphone. Also, this new feature where when you do something that the phone doesn't like, you get a red ring around the screen. And here we are in sort of About Phone, showing the Android version's Honeycomb. And we're not really using a battery, so it doesn't really matter there. Let's go into Applications, and you can see the new checkboxes. You get a little green square inside of a square. Right now in Android for smartphones, you get a green checkbox in Gingerbread. You get the point. So that's settings, kind of redesigned. Let's go back to the home screen and see if there's anything else we missed. Let's say we want to search Google using this widget. Well, we tap in there and we write, let's see if it'll actually follow what I'm typing there. Sort of, kind of, not really. We should be able to open the keyboard by tapping down here on the keyboard icon. I think it's detecting that it's using an external keyboard here, so it is not showing the keyboard by default. But let's see if we can get the Android keyboard to open. That'd be great. This is the wrong keyboard. Okay. Well, we want the English keyboard, which is good. It should be showing the English keyboard, right? So if we go back and tap this again, let's see what happens. I think, oh, we're going to get the same menu. So not exactly sure how the keyboard works here in Honeycomb. So let's do Dell Venue Pro Review and press Enter. It's going to put us right into Google and do a Google search. The browser's going to open again, but it's probably going to force close, but you may see what results look like on the screen. The Honeycomb browser, I think, improves upon the already good rendering fidelity of the Android browser that you see in smartphones. So here we are. We've got this little menu in the upper right corner. Let's see if we're lucky enough to see what it says before it force closes, which it's been doing a lot today. Doesn't look like we're going to get there. Yep, force close. Okay. So that's pretty much it. Let's see if we can get into a couple more things before we end this video. I know it's getting long here. There's a lot to show, but we are just trying to show the important aspects, the things that we think are going to show up in the smartphone. So pressing the plus button should probably go into the home screen manager. So it's an alternative way to get into the home screen manager. Instead of tapping and holding on the background, you can just dive right into the that same screen with the button in the upper right corner. So there it is, Android Honeycomb in a nutshell. A lot of this stuff we're going to see on smartphones in 2011. We're going to see the new and improved home screen manager. We're going to see the new notification system at the bottom of the screen here, which makes a lot more sense. We're going to have a faster way to multitask, a lot of new visual cues, new checkboxes, new system fonts, things like that. Android Honeycomb for smartphones is going to be awesome, and it's really going to change not only the way we use Android, but how OEMs can design hardware for us. We're going to see some cool stuff in 2011. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And for more on Honeycomb and smartphone news and reviews, check out Pocketnow.com. Thanks for watching.